Today I'm interviewing CO Bill Sticht. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. First question, are you currently an active CO or are you retired?
I'm retired.
Okay, retired CO. For how long have you been retired and how long were you active?
I was active for close to 27 years and been retired for 2.
27, it's a long time. When you were working, did the amount of personal safety you felt at work decrease over the last 10 years of your tenure?
Absolutely.
If so, like why? Like what type of events, things?
A lot of the laws that the legislation passed that was not in our control. We had no control over it because it was legislation, so it had nothing to do with contracts or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just forced down our throat. The HALT Act, there's just a lot of stuff that they enacted that made our jobs way tougher, and the safety and security of the jail was horrible. It was horrible for the inmates, it was horrible for the officers.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the HALT Act. Could you go in more into that to explain?
The HALT Act was basically was an anti-segregation act that they don't want guys going to, they call it the box, which is SHU. And a lot of it was misunderstood. They think that it's like the 1950s where they get thrown in a hole and they get fed bread and water, and that's not the case. Most of the time they had a bigger cell than they had in population. They got better medical, better everything basically in SHU. They just weren't allowed to be in general population because they couldn't behave in prison.
Yeah.
So when they took, basically you couldn't lock a guy up anymore for more than 15 days when they put HALT in. Mm-hmm. 15 days max SHU. When guys used to get, depending on their actions, like if they assaulted an officer, they'd get maybe 2-3 years in SHU. Yeah. There's no recourse of action anymore in there. These guys don't care.
100%. Okay. From your own perspective, what events within your workplace specifically led up to the recent strike at Collins?
I was out before the strike, but I could,
from what I
know, it was basically the HALT Act. There's just the inmates don't have any recourse of action for their actions. That they can punch an officer in the face and they get 15 days. They could stab another inmate and they get 15 days. They just don't. There's no punishment for their actions anymore, and the more they figured that out, the worse it got.
Knowing their power and stuff.
Right.
When the strike took place, did you participate?
Yes, I did.
And if so, in what ways? Like, did you show up?
I showed up at the strike line at Collins and just was there for my brothers and sisters, and worked with a lot of people for a long time, and I had their back. It's something that when you're in, you're in. It's like a fraternity. They're your family. You spend a lot of time with those people.
Yeah. During the time of the strike, you were retired, but do you know if any officers' health insurance or benefits were ever threatened by the state?
From what I know, yes, they were threatened. If they were on the strike, they were threatened all the time with arrests. They were sending troopers to people's houses at 1 a.m. and giving them arrest summons. They did take their health care. They were doing a lot of illegal stuff.
Yeah. During the time of the strike, do you know anybody who was at risk for job termination due to participation? And if so, did they get terminated? How did that, smooth out?
All the people on strike were threatened with termination. If you didn't go back by a certain day, you got terminated. And there was a lot of guys that didn't go back, and they did get terminated. I think, like they said, 2,000 people got terminated in New York.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you got the National Guard running the jails.
Yeah, interesting. When the state and your jail came to a deal, how did that happen? Like, what was the deal that they came to, and what is like the perception about it within the jail? Retired.
I'm not 100% on what. There were so many deals put out there. Again, I was retired, so I really wasn't part of that. So I honestly couldn't tell you the specifics on their deals. I know that it didn't go over well. It was a slap in the face.
Yeah, so perception from like active officers.
I know the guys that went back were guys that just, a lot of had families and they just couldn't afford to stay out and risk being terminated.
Yeah.
The guys that got terminated were just so fed up with the department that they didn't care if they got terminated.
Yeah. Last question here. If a new CO were to be coming in, you know, like they keep asking for new COs to come in. They're trying to advocate for hirings. If you're a new CO coming in, what changes would you want to see in your at Collins prison system to like entice you to take the job?
I don't think there's much that would entice me to take that job anymore, but they have to get rid of the HALT Act. They have to hold the inmates accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
Officers can't do their jobs. Like if you can't do your job, it makes the job that much. It's already a hard job. It makes the job that much more difficult when you're powerless. I mean, they could throw all the money in the world at these kids, but once they go in and find out that they have no power in there and they're walked all over by the state, by the inmates, by the administrations, it's bad. You're like the lowest class there, not the inmates.
Yeah.
It's not a good situation. It really isn't.
Do you think maybe if there was a way to either eliminate, which would be hard, but or at least decrease the inflow of drugs into the prison, would that maybe help the officers be more safe? Because I know with like K2 overdoses, a lot of those are really violent. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The drug flow into the prison is ridiculous. It's just, but the state doesn't want to do anything to stop it. There's so many ways they can stop it, and they just won't do it.
Yeah.
They just refuse because they don't want to take rights away from inmates. But
yeah,
I just don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
That's why I saw the writing on the wall and I left.
Yeah, I understand. Well, that's all, but thank you for your time.
Yep.
Yep.